Hello, I'm going to be walking you through the non-decodable rebel red word activity. And just remember that this activity is to be used for non-decodable words, so words that don't follow the phonics rules. It's important to know that 86% of the English language is completely phonetic, and then we have that 14% which is non-decodable. But it's important to know that they're only partially non-decodable. So let's look at the word said, like I said hello. So the word said, it's partially non-decodable. Why? Because while the s is correct and the d is correct, that middle sound is not correct. It should either be an E or maybe an EA or anything that says eh, and it's not. And if we would decode it, we would decode it wrong. And if we would encode it, we would encode it wrong. So that's what we call a non-decodable word. For non-decodable words, technically we have students memorizing these words, but it's through a fun, multisensory, engaging way. It's also very explicit. And the major difference between teaching decodable words and non-decodable words, while with decodable words, we would use sound cards and the sounds that they make. So if we're spelling the word cat, we would have the child use the sounds. So cat, cat, right? And that makes sense. They're puzzle pieces and they work, and that's how that flows. But if we have a child and we're trying to teach them the word said, we can't do that. We can't say it said. That doesn't make any sense. We can't even say said. That doesn't make sense. So instead of using the letter sounds with non-decodable words, we use letter names. SAID said. But before we get into this, the major difference again is that with decodable words, we're using sounds, and with non-decodable words, we're using letter names. All right, let's get right to it. Step one, we're using the red word in a sentence, and I'm just going to pull up what this will look like on your whiteboard that you have in front of a child. So you would write this sentence on the whiteboard in front of them. The word that you're teaching as the red word is in red. All the other words are in black. If you are including other red words in your sentence, in this sentence we do not have any other red words, but if we are, let's say instead of a, we would write the word the. Right, so the is technically a red word because that open syllable E at the end should say E, right? But this red word we're not writing in red this time because this is the word we are teaching. We should have already taught this word. We should never introduce a child to a word that we haven't taught them yet. And again, this is not decodable. And of course, the other words we're using only skills that they've already learned. But we want the students to just identify the red word. And here it's in bold, it's in red, and it's the only word in red. The way you're going to do this is as follows, and I'll just use my pointer here. Where is my spotlight? Okay. Spotlight. You're going to point to each word as you read it out loud in front of the child. I have the red car. And then you're going to do it again. I have the red car. Okay, boys and girls, what is my red word of the day? Remember, we never ask a child a question that we don't know that they know the answer to in a group setting. So we're giving them the answer here, right? And you can read it again if you even want to do that. And then the students will say, have, okay, great. And then you're going to talk about, well, why is it red? What's red about it, right? You don't have to use fancy words like non-decodable, but what doesn't follow the rules here? Right, if it has a magic E at the end, well, it should technically say have, and it doesn't, it says have. Some students really benefit from knowing what part of the word is red. So, some students may ask, well, what part of this word is red? And you can say, well, this E is red. The E is not following the rules. And then that makes a lot of sense to them because then this says have, right? You don't have to do that. That's just an option that you can do. And if you are doing that, you'll notice that your students will walk up to you with words that are non-decodable and they'll ask you, well, what part of this word is red? Which is cool, it helps them. But some students are not able to sort of grasp that concept. So it's just the red word and that's fine. I apologize for that. Okay, so once you've done that, you talk about why is this word red? And that's a really important discussion to have with your students as well. Step 2, students use the red crayon on their Rebel red word paper over a bumpy edge to write the red word 3 times. And I'm going to show you what this would look like in the packet. Where is my Rebel red word packet? Oh, there it is. Okay. The first thing you're doing with the students is you're taking this side of the paper And if you would rather just use regular paper, that's not bad. You know, it's fine. You can use any paper really. This paper helps guide you in what you're going to be doing, and it also speaks to the student. It also works on penmanship, which is great. So I recommend using this paper, but of course, if you don't have it on you, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're going to put this paper onto a rough surface. So that could be pavement outside. That's fine. Or if you have some sort of like window screen, but don't use the metal ones because that could be really dangerous. Maybe like a plastic, like sewing sheet thing where it has like a bunch of holes. What I've done in the past is I've just taken a cardboard paper or a cardboard box, the side of it, smeared glue on it, sprinkled salt all over it, let it dry, and then that's your rough edge, and that's fine. And you can even make it into a project. Everyone can do their own. You can do different color sand. It's really not specific to how you have a rough edge, but the idea is that when the child writes on the rough edge, when they take that rough edge away, those words will be bumpy. So that's really great. It's also multisensory. It's really engaging, and it's really fun for the student. So step one, we're going to put this paper on a rough edge, and then we're going to start writing our word using letter names. And we're going to do it 3 times. So if our word here is have, we're going to have the child do this. H, A, V, E, have. Again, H, A, V, E, have. And one more time. H, A, V, E, have. By the way, at the end of this training video, this will be singing in your head for the entire day, and I apologize for that, but of course that's the goal. We're going to hear this word a lot today, and that's okay, and this is how we're helping students memorize the letters in this word. All right, they just wrote it 3 times. Beautiful. Now you take away that rough edge. Now they take their fingers over what they wrote in red, and now they're tracing that word. They're tracing those letters, and again, H, A, V, E, have. And they find this fun. It's funner than what we're doing here because there's nothing written on my paper and there's nothing bumpy here, but the students like to trace that bumpy have. H, A, V, E, have. H, A, V, E, have. Okay, beautiful. Now the next step. I'm going to pull this back up. There are many options for what you can do for this step. I have here listed a really fun one, but it's really not important how you are, completing this step. But basically the students create some sort of chant. So it doesn't have to be something exciting. It doesn't have to be something that took forever to create. I just recently created one for the word have with a child, and it went like this. H, A, V, E, have. H, A, V, E, have. And it sounds so silly as I'm doing it with you now in the video, but the students absolutely love it. And by the end of that session that you have with your child, that song will be playing over and over and over in their head, and they will have this word down pat, and that's the goal. The goal is for them not to have to sit there and memorize it, but for this to be engaging, multisensory, and fun. So what you're going to do is the student is going to hold out that paper that we were just looking at. They're holding it with their hand, they're looking at it, and they're doing a multisensory activity for the letters. So either they can jump for each letter. So if you can imagine if they're standing over here, they jump here, H, A, V, E, and then maybe they run back have. Again, H, A, V, E, have. And remember, we're doing it in a chant. So H, A, V, E, have. H, A, V, E, have. H, A, V, E, have. And they're doing that multisensory activity. You can also just have them hold the paper out and then tap their arm, starting from the shoulder, going all the way down to the wrist and tapping it for those letters. So H, A, V, E, and then they point to the word have, right? And it doesn't really matter what you do here. You can do like a YMCA situation where you're, picking up your hands and doing something like that. You could do a twist for every letter. You could do a wiggle for every letter. You could, it's not really important what exactly you're doing, as long as it's fun and it's engaging and you're building memory channels and you have that chant going. And once they're finished with all of those steps, then you turn the paper over to this side. And remember, that song is playing over in their head over and over again, and they just had a lot of fun, and they moved and they got out of their seats for a minute. Now they don't see the word anymore. The word is away, your whiteboard is away, everything is away. And they once again, now with a pencil, not with the red crayon anymore, with a pencil, they're going to do this again. And then most likely chant it instead of say it this time. H, A-V, E, have, H, A-V, E, have, H, A-V, E, have, right? I warned you that this would be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. Beautiful, you check these for the students, you make sure that they spelled it correctly. Once they spelled these correctly, they can write a sentence using the word have. If they did not spell them correctly, you're going back to have some more fun. All right, let's try a different dance. Let's try some other thing. Let's, trace it again, and then let's stand up again. And you're doing that again. Generally speaking, it will not be an issue. They'll have internalized it by this point. And then they can write a sentence. The only word that you're checking for spelling is have. They are allowed to include any word that they want to, and they can do inventive spelling for it. And if they ask you, well, how do I spell school bus? How do I spell, house? Say, just do your best. Just remember H-A-V, E, have, right? Today, that's what we're learning. So don't worry about the spelling and the penmanship and the capitalization of any other thing. The only word you're checking here is that word that you learned as a non-decodable word, and this one was have. And you can compile these in the packet. So then, this would be have, this might be this might be, right? There's like everything else that you're learning also. And then they can reference it, when they need to. If you'd like, you can put a ring on it so that they have sort of like a ring thing, or maybe in a binder. And again, it's up to you how you go about doing that. And that concludes the red word activity. If you have any questions, of course, please always feel free to reach out. Have a great day.